an aggressive growth.
Making sense out of.
Yeah, so you got the whole meeting for chat's even better.
Ransom shield law.
And, you know,
Good morning, Jeff. How are you in Arlington, Virginia today?
I am doing well. Looking forward to talking vCon today and tomorrow at ITW.
Yes, of course, ITW, where all of the world comes together. And now vCon being there helps really move the conversation to how vCon can really help these large organizations really navigate. Jeff, if they're not going to be a part of it, they're going to be missing out what I consider the next 3.0 version of how we have human conversations and how we use AI to do that.
And particularly for all the wholesalers out there trying to figure out how to avoid this race to zero in terms of pricing. The big innovation for them is to have AI-powered SIP trunks and do it on a wholesale basis, do it at scale. vCons do that. And for all the wholesalers, whether they're international, domestic, does not matter. If they talk SIP, they can easily talk vCon. And if they're not talking SIP, why are they there? And so, it was a year ago at ITW, I started talking to some people about the magic of AI and how AI is going to be more pervasive in business communications and how vCon is going to help their customers and their customers derive great value from the metadata of the conversation. And they were like giving me starry-eyed, glossed over eyes, bored eyes. They let me talk for 10 seconds, up to 2 minutes. I hope to have at least 2-minute conversations this time. And the cool part is in the past year, we've seen a bunch of service providers come forward and working on their vCon strategies, software products. And as you know, because you were there, we were in Hyannis. We hosted the first ever vCon conference in the world in April. And looking forward to the first ever vCon meetup in Dallas. It's going to be on May 29th.
Yes.
And we're going to be in Dallas on May 29th because October 21st, 23rd, we'll be in Dallas for full 25 vCon. And so it's really wonderful to watch a technology take off. And one of the unstated powers of what a virtualized conversation can offer is not only just context to the content, but a vCon itself is just a file format. And I don't mean to say just a file format, but it is. But in the history of computing, it's the first standardized, certainly in the history of the internet, it's the first standard for conversations, which goes far and deep. That means whether you and I are talking here, whether you're talking to a group of people in a text chat, whether you're talking to folks in a video chat or email, now there's a standard format. And so we can derive lots of information, lots of value. And then at a big picture, what we're really talking about is finding value out of unstructured data, and being able to put structure around unstructured data is like, in some ways, figuring out the secret to the universe. We're able to look into the cosmos, all random stuff, maybe random, and find value. So in today's Pulver vCon report that's going to go out to my subscribers as well as going to be posted on LinkedIn, I had an imaginary conversation this weekend with, who did I have it with? I had it with Einstein and Carl Sagan and with Steve Jobs and Bob Dylan. And we were talking about vCons, and I asked them for their takes on it. And I was mesmerized by what they were saying. And it's a good article. It's a wonderful creative story. And it just shows you how our imaginations can bring forward the future. Where what does it mean to actually understand things? What does it mean to truly figure out that subtleness? And because the word AI is a buzzword, so are many other things we talk about. But at the essence of it, we're people, and we can have meaningful conversations, have the ability to remember these conversations so that they don't forget. Because we're busy people, and regardless of how young or old you are, we don't remember everything. But to be able to remember the good stuff, to remember even the bad stuff and have context to it and remember to hold on. vCons offer to me a secret way of it's almost an opening into a universe of possibilities where we can truly start to understand. Because we talk about AI analytics, and what do the analytics do is they look at data. And sort of like for any fan of Star Trek who remembers Next Generation, there's a character called Data. The Gene Roddenberry's crew was not really behind the times; they were ahead of the times, because in some ways we're all data. And how do we capture that data? How do we visualize it? How do we gain value from it? How do we map it into our memory or into our mind so that it's meaningful? That's the challenge. And vCon is not the end all be all. It's a file format, for goodness sake. However, it starts the trend of deeper understanding and deeper value creation. And really, kind of like a lot of people eventually going to say, oh, wow, because all this is hiding in plain sight. The true value of some of this is the fact that due to the IETF adopting vCons as a standard, that's why these large language models like Gemini and ChatGPT and Claude, they intuitively understand what a vCon can do. So any type of conversation saved in a vCon format is understood as opposed to hallucinated about. Because if you're a data scientist working in a company, you would in the past spend a lot of time training your AI model, your file format, so it understands what's captured. And now we're living in an era where whether you're a small business, medium-sized business, big business, you can take it for granted that the large language models will understand the vCons, and all you have to do is capture the data, save it in that format, and then figure out for yourself how to best apply it.
But that's the gap that we're trying to solve here on our weekly lives, because Jeff, part of the problem is that a lot of people are already doing siloed versions of their business development, their sales marketing, their coding. But if they could have the conversational piece embedded with that file format, what happens is that there becomes a direct correlation with what I consider the next evolution of human communication, which is we will have documented communications so that we have a reference point of what Susie said she liked, or a file that can go back into a conversation that contractually puts a business owner and another customer together. Like, this is the next version of how we will communicate.
Yes, and in fact, so those nuances, the strategic advantage of getting involved with vCons now is that you get ahead of the game, because the standard itself at the ITF was co-created not only by great engineers, but by also folks from regulatory agencies and from human rights organizations. It may not be tomorrow, but I promise you that in the next 3 to 5 years, regulators are going to say, instead of send us the full detail records, give us the CDRs, they're going to say, share those vCons with us. And so what we're talking about is really from a telecom operations perspective, the transition from full detail records to really vCons, and being able to understand the elements of every party who was in a conversation, what that implied, what the duration of the conversations were, what the context was, what was shared. And then on a deeper level, there are protections being developed and in fact implemented that manage consent, so that if you are a person and you're calling into a call center, you should have the right to not have the call center's AI learn from you if you don't want it to. You should be able to not have your voice recorded, particularly if you're not happy with what you said. And at least even if you are happy, have the option to be deleted, and have the option of knowing, okay, Jeff, you called Delta Airlines 117 times in the past 3 weeks. They may wonder why I'm calling so often, but I should be able to delete those recordings. I might not have been the happiest of campers if they changed flights on me or changed equipment, or otherwise just made me tirelessly delayed for no apparent reason to me. I mean, why is it that my app knows what's happening before the gate agent? I don't understand. I figure we're living in an era where we do have connectivity. Why should I know before the announcements come out? It's just silly. So the point is, vCons are part of it. And if you can imagine, vCons in your family life, at least for me, growing up, I kind of wish that, we were being recorded at some level, because I was the brother that always would accuse my sisters of knowing what's happening ahead of the game. I could never prove it. And then even in business, working with my sister, there are times when I think I may have said something to my sister when perhaps I didn't. But you go to the vCon, there you know. And in any type of situation, we have particularly like for triage, if you're looking at, because some of the folks involved with the vCons are the emergency services people, and so you need to understand in case of emergency how to triage, how to handle, prioritize, how to deal with it. And so the vCons have the ability, frankly, to capture radio communication. You can capture, if you wanted to scribbles and put that together. There's no definite. It's unstructured. So whatever you want to put into the vCon for the record, for the conversation, you can. And the more data that you have, the more value you can get out of it. And so, yeah, it's this is happening. It's like, imagine, so there's all sorts of time travel movies. But if I were to tell you, ahead of time that the internet was going to happen, you may care, you may not care. If you're into stocks, maybe you would say, well, what's the name of that company? In Hot Top Time Machine, the guy renames the company after himself. But the point is, you can go in and instead of living in the past or thinking about what you missed, you can actually capture the future. And this is one of those transitional moments where we're able to ride that wave once again. And this has the potential to be bigger than the introduction of voice over IP into telecoms, and really creates a whole new era of what it means to communicate. Because in the past, telecom was all about how long did the call run. Here, we start getting interesting when the conversation ends. So if I were to talk about this week in vCon land, there are some interesting things happening. I'm aware of a few more service providers after the conference that have made a commitment to launching their own vCon services. We have a commitment, as you know, to be in Dallas on May 29th to talk vCons. It's going to run from 12 to 2:30 at Co-America.
Yes.
And I believe lunch is being served, which is really nice. And then there's other and people who are vCon curious. I'm happy. I'm sure you're happy to answer people's questions and to look at how vCons could be strategic. And to your earlier point about silos, this is a big, big, big thing. With no disrespect to a certain company that people like to dial into. I'll start years ago. It was CompuServe and even AOL in the early days, where they gave you a portal where they decided everything you're going to say, and you were siloed and stuck in there. If you wanted on CompuServe, if you wanted to know the news, it's the news as they saw it. And pre-internet, AOL more or less was doing the same thing. They were like curating what information you get, and then all of a sudden, the browser one day opens up to the public internet. And right now there are a few service providers who have siloed their AI for their customers that are stuck. Yes. And one of the benefits of having an interoperable standard is that you have the flexibility of being able to choose which vendors you want for AI analytics, for business insights. Perhaps there's going to be someone who's going to be the conserver of the conversations. You should have the flexibility of being able to choose who you want and optimize based on features, value, or whatever it is that your betas are set to. And so what the advent of the vCon does is it liberates, it disintermediates, or could disintermediate. So here it's a consumer, and by the way, if you're a product manager at a major, UCaaS or CPaaS provider, you may want to think ahead about how powerful you can use these vCons, because the last 16 years, it took a while, but congratulations, now you all suffer from sameness. And what the vCon lets you do is put a spiff on it, and to be able to, clearly delineate a feature functionality in different market segments. So you don't have to be the same as anyone else. Now you can be different and be proud and frankly charge for it. And so you don't have to be a silo anymore.
Well, and I think that's the segue, Jeff, into why, the meetup in Dallas is critical, because like-minded people are going to find the innovation in it, and like-minded people who want to take it to that next level, which is going to happen anyway. It's going to be part of a regulated industry. The regulators who have already the insight on how AI is coming into play in business, they're all getting ahead of the game. And that meetup in Dallas is to really, what I consider, put a punctuation into the Dallas market of those vCon, enthusiasts who are moving more into those development, as well as companies who are literally trying to find the next wave of innovation before it hits mainstream.
Yes, and to that, it's and in the enterprise, the lowest hanging fruit, of course, is to use vCons to drive reporting on the information being captured, to help companies better understand what their customers are saying or not saying, better understand the performance, let's say, in call centers of call agents. But you can run deeper. And if you're a data analyst, you can actually take your unstructured data, stick that into a vCon, associate that with information on a supply chain, and all of a sudden you can gain insights, precious insights that you just were not obvious. And so what's really nice about unstructured data with a vCon, it's like if I look at my desktop, it's a mess. If you come into my office, it might look messy to you. But in my office, I know where things are because my mind acts as the AI and it maps things. My
It's
desktop,
organized chaos, Jeff. Organized chaos.
and that's the magical part here, because the large language models organize the chaos of unstructured data as captured from a vCon. That's the magic. And whatever is in that data, it may not be meaningful to me, could be critical for you. And to look at what we say is the obvious and capture value, that's magic. And so if you're an enterprise looking at how you could better utilize conversations in your business, if you're looking to better understand just what this technology is, if you're a service provider or interested in building applications, because I do believe over the next 3 to 5 years and sooner, there are going to be a new crop of companies, perhaps starting off as side hustles for some people, which will be adding value to the vCon file format, so that if you're an expert in selling to MSPs and there's certain insights that you understand that MSPs customers need to know about, or MSPs could better run their operations from, and things are being, and you're now getting from your smart trunks, you're getting those vCons, and you happen to be that expert, you can build an application that drives value by consuming vCons. And so as many different business segments are there, there's a potential possibility for that, even many more applications to start adding value on top of that stack. So you have people who are going to be minting the vCons, managing the vCons, and there's a whole other industry of folks not related to telecom who'll be adding value to vCons. And it's like very much like the spreadsheet market, where spreadsheet platforms exist, and you could find templates to do many, many different things depending upon what you're looking to do at any moment in time. And those people don't have to know each other, but they all relate because in the world of spreadsheets, whether it's Google Sheets or Excel, it's for them, and there's a standard file format that they're adding value onto. And so at the app layer in the vCon ecosystem, it's very similar, very similar.
Well, and then Jeff, as we, figure out what industries are really going to take the step forward, telecom is going to be the obvious fit because of the documentation, because of the way that they can take this data, look at it, silo it into their solutions now, so that their customer experience plus their team experience and overall how the business operates, all of those different motions can happen with vCon. Even though it's a file format, it's how to use the file format. This is the reason why everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, right, with ChatGPT, because they're like, I can be an next prompter. And I'm like, no, there's rules of the game when you're dealing with the AI. In order to put in good, you're going to get the good. If you're not putting anything in substantial, that's why you're frustrated with it.
And then also you have the whole compliance issues, right? So you have the AI compliance rules to be issued, to be understood, some that have come out, and how you manage customer data and how you do all that. So what's really nice about vCons as a file format is it does provide structure, and vCons plus this other protocol called SCIT, which stands for Supply Chain Integrity, Transparency, and Trust. Those two together create a framework which we introduced at the conference and called it TAFI, as a trust agent framework for AI. And TAFI is the kind of framework that I expect to see next generation AI bots, the chatbots, or the next gen chatbots, the agentic AI agents. If you want to have memory between sessions on a chatbot or an AI agent and get rid of the amnesia problem, vCons are the savior. vCon provides an ability to save those sessions as memories, and then extend that. Imagine that you're a company and you had customers talk to your bot, and now you can actually add those conversations back into their emails with your company, back into your emails with your team, back to the conversations they had with your team, back with text messages they shared. And so now you get to see the 360 of all interactions between you, and then you can look at it on a corporate level. You could look at, between company A and company B on an individual level, or you could look at it on a totality level. And so standard file format for conversations is transformational in how businesses will communicate. Individually, as consumers, there are going to be all sorts of very creative tools and applications that come out where we're not going to know they're using vCons. And frankly, most consumers won't care. but they're going to be able to see magic because it's being utilized.
Right. And that's what we really want to get at every week, guys, when we're doing this live, is really to put the control back in your hands. Not only because we're literally leading the charge of getting vCon out there, but more importantly, the control that you have right now in your own organization, in your own silo, and how you would use this for your team or your company or even your customers. And so every single week we're talking about these so that you can actually get ahead of what's coming already. It's been here. vCon has been around. It's just now taking center stage. It's just like everything else in the market, Jeff. Everyone thinks it's new, and I'm thinking, no, this was talked about many, many years ago. Just no one was paying attention to it.
Think of vCons as that singer-songwriter you ran into in Austin 5 years ago. And he said, boy, one day they're going to be really good. And every day they go into, they play their gigs, they're small cafes. Sometimes they open for someone else. And now all of a sudden they're opening a major show. And you're saying, gee, they're an overnight success. Sure, it's an overnight success. It took years to make happen. And whether you're a singer-songwriter or you're a vCon creator or you're just the file format vCon itself, you are going to get recognized. The time will come and magic will be bestowed.
That's right. Well, Jeff, thanks again. Have a wonderful conference. I'll see you soon. And take care and be safe, my friend. And everybody,
You too.
the Dallas link for the meetup will be inside of the chat. So go ahead and register. We'll see you there. And then also we have the link live for the October 21st to 23rd event in Dallas, where we'll be doing a 3-day conference specifically for vCon.
Thank you.